I am starting off with ethics. I suppose you would be well versed with the ethics paper. The ethics paper is the last paper for your GS. It is the last paper. It is the GS paper 4, the last paper. It is of 250 marks. There are 2 sections. Section A is about your theory portion. It is about the theory portion. And the next portion, the section B portion, is about the case studies. It about the case studies. Roughly each of these questions. Okay. So I am briefing you about the ethics. This is a fairly known information. GS paper 4, 250 marks, section A, section B. This is about 130 marks. And the theory portion is also about 120 marks. So let's say around 12 to 13 questions of the theory portion, 10 marks around questions. Now, what is the issue with the ethics paper? So those who are writing mains this time, as well as those who would be writing in next year. You know that, are you aware that between your GS papers, GS 1, 2 and 3 and 4, you don't get a gap between your GS paper 1, 2, 3 and 4. See, you have GS paper 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, you don't have a gap. So if this is on Monday, this will be on a Tuesday. If this is on Tuesday, this will be on a Wednesday. So there is no gap between those. Yes, afternoon, evenings, afternoon and noon session, afternoon and the noon session, morning and the noon session. The first paper is 9 to 12. The second paper is 2 to 5. Again, 9 to 12. Again, 2 to 5. Why do you think has the ethics portion been kept last? And this is the last hour. So you have already written about 9 hours in the previous papers, and this is the last 3 hours. So basically 12 घंटे लिखना होता है, 2 दिन लिखने होते हैं, और ethics paper last रखा है. Any reason why do you think the ethics paper has been kept as last paper? They could have kept it as first paper, second paper. Why is ethics paper the last paper? It is mentally affecting. It is mentally affecting. You get to know what is your true reality. Okay? From my personal experience, let me tell you, एक आधी paper, one paper is like that, wherein you don't feel like writing. For some people, for some candidate, it's GS paper 3. For some candidate, it's GS paper 4. Or where we are so tired, where you are so exhausted that you don't feel like writing the paper. And what happens is, at the last of the paper, whatever is your true self gets reflected in the paper. तो सारी सच्चाई सामने आ जाती है. तो एक है ethics पढ़ना, दूसरा है ethics inculcate करना. So please take this paper not only as a paper for clearing the examination, take this paper as being a good individual. ठीक है? So it's like your human being, say being human बनना है. ठीक है? Pun intended. Yes. So this is your ethics paper. I have just briefly shared about the marks in this each section and a case study. A case study is a portion which helps in the application of the paper. Okay. So here I will start off ethics. What have we done so far? Ethics paper. In ethics, we have seen the marks, 250 marks. We have seen it is the section A and section B. Section A is theory portion. Section B is the case study portion. This is 120 marks and roughly 130 marks. Here you have around 13 to 14 questions to be attempted. And this is about the 6 case studies of 20 marks, 4 case study, and 25 marks, 2 case studies is there. Now I'm moving on. The marks in the ethics paper, marks in one lesson that we understood was do not simply learn it as for writing the paper. Also try to internalize the subject. Also tries to internalize the subject, because your true self will be reflected in the paper. One. Now, if you look at the marks, if you look at the importance of ethics paper, if I talk about the importance of ethics paper, in the importance of ethics paper, 2-3 things should be there in your hand so as to qualify this examination. When I say 2-3 things that should be in your hand, one thing in the mains examination, essay paper is very important. The second important thing is your optional and the command over optional. You have, and the other factor is also your ethics paper. Also the ethics paper, apart from the interview. apart from the interview. So 2-3 things should be there in your hand so as to qualify the mains examination with good marks. So I was referring about the importance of the ethics paper for the examination here. Your essay paper, the optional, ethics and interviews are something which you have to score well. So if you score well in your ethics paper, essay paper, optional paper and interview marks, you have a fair chance of qualifying this examination with decent marks, which increases your chances of the success in qualifying for the interview and getting a good rank too. So this is the importance of ethics paper. You have to know the ethics paper. You have to internalize the ethics paper. Now, so I'm just briefing about the importance of the ethics paper. Now, if we have to score in ethics paper, the marks in the ethics paper vary. Some candidates get as less as 70, while as you can score as much as 140. So the marks are varying to as low as 60 to 70, whereas the highest marks goes up at to 130 to 140. Now, why is this variation in the marks scene? What we have seen so far, ethics paper, you have to cover first because it's a static paper. It is an important paper. It helps you in clearing the mains examination and getting a decent score in your interview as well as decent rank. Now, the marks variation is between 70 to 140. Now, how do you make up to the better marks from the 70 marks? So if a student is getting 70, whereas the other student is getting 140, what do you think would be different? You see that there is quite variation in the marks of the candidates. The marks of the candidates vary from as less as 70 to as high as 140, which is nearly double. So 40-50 marks का variation दिखता है ethics के paper में. Those who have good understanding, those who write better answers, they score good marks. But apart from this, there is another thing that you should keep in mind while you are writing any mains paper. And that is what I'm asking. Why do you think there is so much variation? There is so much variation in the marks of the candidates. So if you write good examples, you can get good marks. Something else I'm looking forward. Paper completion, last paper hai. So many of them leave the paper. Let me tell you, for the other GS papers, you get 50 pages. But for ethics papers, those who have written mains will know you get around 55 pages to write. ठीक है, एक तो last paper है, हाथ टूटा हुआ है, and you struggle with completing. The understand, clear expression in the answer, the practice of answer writing, selection of the language, depth of the understanding and explanation. Fine. One important thing is, yes, for ethics paper, see, if this is the paper, this is the question. If this is the question, you start writing of the ethics paper. A very important thing is, as soon as you give the introduction, as soon as the introduction is over, it is important to give examples. Your paper will have, when you try to actually understand, it is important, don't write in abstract manner. Try to give concrete examples. So after the introduction, like in geography optional, we say, introduction ke baad kya chahiye? You need a diagram. After the introduction, you need diagram. So for ethics, after the introduction, what do we need? After the introduction, we need an example to make your answer concrete. Okay? So yes, you need good examples, correct. Where do you get good examples from? You can use your knowledge of GS. So your GS, you can use example from current events. You can use example from history, polity, right? So if there is a question, let's say about impartiality, can you not use the example of speaker? Can you not use the example of governor? Do you have to specially study an example? No. It is how far are you able to interlink your GS syllabus. So the examples can come from GS. The example can come from current affairs, right, that you study. The example can also come from your sports. Okay, many of you are interested in sports, right? So the example of perseverance, honesty, integrity, these examples can also be quoted from the sports. So you try to have whatever is in your knowledge base, try to use that. Do not go on searching the examples. You already have a lot of examples. It depends on how far are you able to use those examples, how far are you able to link those examples. And for this, we need answer writing. And for this, we need brainstorming. You need to think. You know, to think about it, right? Then a second important thing which helps in scoring the ethics paper, a very important thing which helps in scoring the ethics paper is your syllabus of the ethics paper, is the syllabus of the ethics paper. Every subject, do understand candidates, every subject has its own language. So ethics has its own language. When you talk about anger, when you talk about honesty, when you talk about integrity, selflessness, objectivity, what are you referring to? You are referring to the language of ethics. I generally give this example in the classes that corporate social responsibility, corporate social responsibility. Okay, corporate social responsibility. This is a topic. Suppose this is the topic, the corporate social responsibility. Now, this topic, can it come under your paper 2, polity part? And can it come, polity and the social justice part? And can it come, can a question can also come in your paper 4? Can the question comes in GS paper 2? Can the question come in GS paper 4? Will the language be same? Will the language be same? So if I am referring to paper 2, here, what would be my language? When I'm referring to corporate social responsibility, I can talk about the committees. I can refer to the composition of the boards. I can refer to the relation with the society, right? That is something I'll have to link. I can refer it to the articles. That's what you study. You can refer it to governance. Now, when you think about the same topic in your corporate social responsibility in an ethics paper, what you have to do? You have to mention the ethical words. You have to mention the ethical words. You have to mention the ethical values. Now, if I think about the corporate social responsibility in GS paper 4, I'll have to use the terms. I'll have to use the terms like, just see how you have to, yes, you'll have to use the term like responsibility. You have to use the term like trust, integrity, care, empathy, compassion. Now, do you understand the difference between the language of ethics paper and the polity paper? The same topic. So it is very important while you are writing ethics paper, it is very important to use the language of ethics. Okay. Generally, we have, because we study so much of GS, we try to replicate the same thing in ethics paper. Therefore, I say the language is important. And how do you get the language? Where do you get the language from? Ek hi mool mantra hai. One is the one, only one, ek hi parcha hai. That is your syllabus. Now, if I decode the syllabus, if I try to decode the syllabus, okay. Now, if I am reading the syllabus for ethics paper, now please read this paper, please read the instruction clearly. The instruction says, this paper will include a question. Okay, there would be question for what? The question will be to test the candidate's attitude. We are checking the candidate's attitude. Chautha paper isliye already 9 घंटे लग चुके हैं. ठीक है? And approach. We are testing the candidate's attitude. We are testing the approach. We related to what? Related to integrity, probity in the public life. How far he has values. How far he believes in integrity and probity. And there is also what is the problem solving approach? Does the candidate has a problem solving approach or not? Does the candidate have value? Does the candidate have a problem solving approach to what? To various issues and conflicts faced by him in dealing with the society, So there would be many ethical concerns. There would be many ethical dilemmas. Does the candidate have the problem solving approach? And not just problem solving. Can the candidate solve the problem using his values, using his probity, using the integrity? Right? And this question may try to utilize the case study approach to determine these aspects. So there is also your case study approach that is used for analyzing these things. Do you have an attitude? Do you have values? Do you have problem solving approach? That's what is taken into account. And therefore, now comes your syllabus. The syllabus is a key for getting those terms, for getting those values that you will have to write in your answers. In the future classes, we will also see that how do you utilize your syllabus for writing good answers. For that, let's first analyze the syllabus. The first topic is ethics and human interface. So ethics and human interface. आपका यहीं से key terms चालू हो चुका है, ठीक है? I'm just circling the key terms. Integrity, probity in public life. Okay, so this was the first term, integrity, probity in public life. You can do one thing is you can make if you can take an A4 sheet and make the key terms, write the key terms that you can use from your syllabus. So the first topic of the syllabus is the ethics and the human interface. What is the ethics and the human interface? So what is the essence of ethics? Essence, what is ethic made up of? What comprises the heart of ethics? Values, character, conduct, behavior. Okay, what is the essence of ethics? What determines the ethics, or whether an action is ethical action or not? जो आप काम कर रहे हैं वो सही काम कर रहे हैं कि नहीं, इसका determinant क्या है? Okay, determinant would be individual, determinant would be circumstance, determinism will be whether there was a free will, क्या आपके पास free will था? If someone keeps a gun at your head and says do this act, that will not come under the purview of ethics because you don't have free will, you don't have choice. Okay, so this is the determinants of the ethics. What is the consequence of the ethics in human action? अगर आपने कोई काम किया, if you did some act, उसका क्या consequence हुआ? That also is judged by the ethics. Probably you, let me say, is it good to cross a red light? The red light in signal, if there is a red light, should you cross the red light? Those who say a blatant no. Should the decision, should the right or wrong not depend on the circumstance? For example, if you're carrying a person who have met with an accident, then yes, it depends on the situation. It depends on the circumstances, right? It also depends on why are we doing? So why are we doing? What is the consequence? What is the essence? This is what ethics deal with. This first unit is very important. The ethics and human interface. Okay, or what is ethics? Or why do we, how do we know whether an action is right or wrong? What is the set benchmark? That can be understood by this very first unit. The essence, the determinant of the ethics and the consequences of the ethics in human action. What are the dimensions of the ethics? What are the dimension of the ethics? Ethics के अंदर क्या-क्या dimensions हैं, right? So you have a virtue ethics, you have a teleological ethics, we have a deontological ethics. So what are the dimensions of the ethics? Okay. Then the fourth point, ethics in public and the private relation. Can ethics in the private and public relation be same? जो values that I have in my personal life, in my private life, can those be same in the public life? Can there be same? Can both of them be same? Are they same or are they similar? They may differ sometimes, they may overlap sometimes. Can and cannot be. In ethics, there is no yes or no. Can or cannot be. If my ethics in the private life, can I follow honesty? Can I follow the same thing in my public life too? I can be an honest individual in my personal life, in my private life. And I can also be an honest person in my public life, right? What about the values of accountability? What about the values of responsibility? So there can be overlap and certain values can differ also. Certain values can differ also. So certain values are same, certain values are different. So ethics in public life and private life. There is no watertight compartment that this is where the public life ends, this is where the private life ends, especially your bureaucrats. Administrator. Does an administrator have a private life? Yes, there is a huge overlap. There are no fixed working hours. Okay, even the standards, the ideal standards in the private life should be very high because an administrator is a public figure. He's a public figure. So the ideal standard should be as high because nowhere where he goes, it is not seen that he is going as a private person. He is a public individual. So he has to be there serving the public day in, day out. So he'll not be seen as a private individual. He would always be looked upon as the public individual. So there is a huge overlap, and it is said that to an extent that many of them said that the administrators do not have private life. Every action is judged. Every action is scrutinized. Okay. So I hope I'm not scaring you all. That's what you have to live. So try to internalize from this day one. Okay. Now, the teachings of the great administrators, leaders, reformers. Now, the teachings of the great administrators, reformers, try to have examples. Try to have examples. The examples, like, you can use it from history, you can use it from your general knowledge. APJ Abdul Kalam ji, Buddha, Gautam Buddha ji, Mahavir Jain ji. Then you can have Gandhi ji. So try to have the leaders, reformers, and administrators. Yes, Vivekanand, Swami Vivekanand. You can use about your TN session. You can have Sridharan, the Metro Man of India, right? The Metro Man of India. So here, try to have at least 15 to 20 examples which you can use across the answers. So even if you have to write, say, 19 questions, you have 6 case studies and you have 14 theory questions. So if you have to write 19 to 20 questions, try to have 40 to 50 examples and try to repurpose them. Yes, try to repurpose these examples. Okay, so this is what my learning is. Now, for example, suppose this was the first unit, the ethics and the human interface. So once, if I look at the ethics and the human interface, the second unit is what? The second unit is about your attitude. The second unit is about the attitude. So if first was about the philosophical dimension of ethics, the first unit is about the philosophical dimension. The second is about the psychological dimension. The psychological dimension. So understand, your ethics is a very broad subject. You have a philosophical dimension, you have psychological dimensions, and inculcating the values from the society. You have a sociological dimension. We have the sociological dimension. Now, about the psychological dimension, attitude. What is attitude? What is the structure of attitude? What is the function of the attitude? So what do we mean by attitude, right? What is the content of attitude? What is attitude made up of? Why do we have attitude? A simple basic definition, right? A reaction of different things, way to express something, the way we approach a situation, behaving in certain circumstances. Sriram, that is behavior. Behaving in certain circumstances is behavior. Is there a relation between attitude and behavior? Yes, there is a relation between attitude and behavior. So if this is attitude, this is behavior. What is behavior? Behavior is outward expression. How do you conduct yourself? That is the outward expression. What is attitude? Attitude is learned. This is an internal. Okay, this is an internal expression. What do we mean by attitude? We mean that it refers to, it is a learned predisposition. Predisposition, or disposition ke bracket mein you can write a tendency, a learned predisposition or a tendency to behave in a certain manner. To behave in a certain manner. So ye tendency hai. This is a tendency to behave in a specific manner. Judging right or wrong, Bhumi, no. That is the work of ethics. That is the work of morality. Attitude doesn't judge something as right or wrong. It is how do you tend to behave in a certain manner. And attitude can be learned. It is learned predisposition to behave in a particular manner. So here in your attitude, you understand content, structure, function. You understand its relation with the thought and the behavior. What is the relation between thought and behavior? What are the types of attitude? Political attitude, moral attitude. Okay. And along with this, you also understand social influence and persuasion. Can your attitude be such that you will have a lot of influence in public life? Can an attitude of an administrator be? What an administrator done? He's looked up by the normal people, by the Aam Aadmi. So that is why social influence and persuasion. Can by persuasion, can you change the attitude of an individual? Can by persuasion. Can you change the attitude of an individual? So here, your persuasion is not only employed by the government, but also by the family members. How many of you are persuaded, बेटा वहां मत देख, वहां कुआं है, ठीक है, डूब जाएगा बेटा, पढ़ाई पे ध्यान दे, ठीक है. So you are persuaded by your friends not to get into certain acts, okay, or to get into certain acts, certain acts. So you're persuaded by many of the agencies. So this is about the attitude. So it is very important for a civil servant to know how to persuade, how not to get persuaded, what tactics to employ to change the behavior, right? The aptitude and the foundational values for the civil servants. Okay, these are the administrative ethics. तो एक तो हमने देख लिया, एक है philosophical dimension of ethics, एक है psychological dimension of ethics, एक है administrative dimension of the ethics. ठीक है, administrative dimension, what are the values that you will follow in the administration, like, and you can have a short form for this. The short form can be INDO CETI, INDO CETI, Indo City. Now, what are the, this is said by second ARC. ये जो आपकी administrative ethics है वो second ARC ने दिया है. What are the Indo City? The I stands for integrity. Okay, I stands for integrity. So I'm referring to the foundational values, foundational values by a second ARC. Okay, or this is applying for your administration. And what did I say? It is Indo City. What does Indo City stands for? Now, I stands for integrity, N stands for neutrality. Then you have a dedication to duty. This is also said in Gita, you know, Nishkam Karma. Yes, the dedication to duty. You have objectivity. We have compassion. The E stands for empathy. T stands for tolerance. I stands for impartiality. Impartiality. So we have Indo City, integrity, neutrality, dedication to duty, objectivity, compassion, empathy, tolerance, and impartiality. You can also write non-partisanship for N. Non-partisanship. The non-partisanship. Okay? Non-partisanship. Is an administrator allowed to go in political rallies? Can an administrator be open about the political affiliations? That means, what does this value mean? Neutrality or non-partisanship. That is the non-partisanship value. Now, when you look at the syllabus, Indo City, try to use, whenever you see the syllabus, whenever you see a question, जब भी question आया, foundational values of a civil servant, the foundational value for the civil servant, can you use these values? Where did it come from? From the syllabus. Can I use an administrator should be impartial, an administrator should be tolerant, should have compassion, should have empathy, right? And for compassion, try to have, there is also a case study called as compassionate cozy code. How many of you have heard this? Compassionate cozy code. Prashant Nair, he aimed at making what? Hunger-free district. Hunger-free district. There was a vision, there was an aim that nobody should in the district be die from, should have hunger issues. The aim was to create a hunger-free district, and for every work, food was given. Food for work was given to solve the problem of hunger. So it is an example where the administration is compassionate. The Compassionate Cozy Code. The name of the project is Compassionate Cozy Code by Prashant Nair. It aimed to make it hunger-free district. Hunger-free district. So this is what I say by using syllabus. Now do you understand what do we mean by using syllabus? The foundational values can be used. If you have to change the attitude, now suppose I'm asking you a question. If you have to change the attitude, if you have to change an attitude, let's say suppose of your sister, brother, any administrator, any person in the job, how will you change the attitude of a person? Suppose you want to persuade, suppose you want to change the attitude. What can you do? Yes, you will employ persuasion tactics. Okay, you will go for persuasion tactics. You will go for persuasion. The attitude is, can I say attitude depends on thinking? Can I say an attitude depends on your thinking? The way you tend to behave depends on your thinking. So if you give an alternative viewpoint, give an alternative viewpoint, can you change the attitude of person by making code of conduct? So if in case, suppose there is a disciplinary conduct that everybody should come at 9 o'clock, at 9 a.m. to the school, they're trying to change your attitude by some code of conduct. Okay? Yes, by some code of conduct. Can you change the attitude by using the influence of the leaders, administrators, religious reformers? If I have to change an attitude in my office towards caste system, yes, if I have to change my attitude towards the gender equality, can we use that? Can we use the examples of leaders, administrators, and the religious leaders? Can I use code of conduct? Can I use code of ethics? Can I use persuasion? Can I use the social influence? I'm trying to change the attitude. Can I go for value-based training? Now can we look at the syllabus once? Now what did I do? I used the syllabus terms. I used the syllabus terms. I used the terms like I will incorporate the role of leaders, administrators, reformers. I will try to use a social influence. I would try to use a persuasion tactics. We will go for the emotional intelligence. We can go for the emotional intelligence. I can use the code of conduct. I can use the code of conduct. Now, what is the task that we have to do? What is the task we have to do? We have already saw 2-3 units. I saw the unit of ethics and human interface. I saw the unit of attitude. There is aptitude and the foundational values for the civil servants. The attitude and the foundational values for the civil servants. And what is the short form? We use the short form as Indo-City. We use the short form as Indo-City. The integrity, impartiality, non-partisanship, objectivity, dedication to public service, empathy, tolerance, compassion towards the weaker section. So at least now you know 8 keywords. 8 keywords तो पता ही है, administrative values तो पता ही है, ठीक है? Indo-City. एक और administrative value है. One more person has given some administrative value. Nolan Committee. The Nolan Committee. How many of you know about Nolan Committee? The Nolan Committee has also given some administrative values. The administrative values like CO Halo. The administrative values like CO Halo. What does these administrative values stands for? It stands for selflessness. Selflessness. I stands for impartiality. O stands for openness. Openness. H stands for honesty. A stands for accountability. L for loyalty. So selflessness, impartiality, openness, honesty, accountability, loyalty, leadership, also leadership, and objectivity. Objectivity. So try to, whenever you see administrative values, you will use what? You will use Indo-City by second ARC, or you will use Nolan Committee as CO Halo, right? Administrative values jab bhi aayegi, we will try to use these. We will try to use this. This is said by second ARC. This is said by a Nolan Committee. That is the Nolan Committee. Then there is the another topic of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence. Again, a very psychological topic. You need to understand this topic. You need to have a psychological bent. So there has to be a psychological side, the emotional intelligence. Then we have the contribution of moral thinkers and philosophers from India and the world. इसमें से generally quote-based question पूछता है. Quote-based question. The philosophers and the quote-based question is asked. For example, once in UPSC they have asked that Thirukural quote that if the falsehood is of for the welfare of the society, it takes place of the of being a truth. Okay, and it was written Thirukural, and it was said that you have to analyze the statement in the present relevant. Is the statement relevant today? That's what we have to analyze. So the contributors of the moral thinkers have to be done on the base of the code-based ethics. Now many of the candidates, बहुत सारे candidates code-based ethics को लिखने में struggle करते हैं, code-based question को. How many of you struggle? Have somebody of you tried and you struggle in writing a code-based answer? So what we'll do is, while I'm taking the further lectures, I will tell you how to attempt the code-based question. A simple formula. Try to use those tricks while you're writing an answer. So you have to elaborate, give example, mention about the relevance at individual level, society level, international level, and how do you conclude in the code-based question. So when we'll be dealing with the classes, I will tell you how to attempt the code-based question. And the last unit, the probity in governance and the public and the civil service values and the ethics in public administration. Both of them will also come under the administrative ethics. So what is the civil services values in the administration, and what about the probity in governance? So here these are example of the administrative ethics. तो अभी आज का हमारा learning क्या है? आज का हमारा lesson है कि ethics. The lesson is that in ethics, syllabus is important. I have tried to give a broad dimension to ethics. Yes, a syllabus important, but there is ethics of philosophy, the ethics of philosophy. Okay, this is the first unit, ethics and human interface. The syllabus is important. This is the broad dimension, the ethics of philosophy, the ethics of psychology. In the ethics of psychology, we understood it is attitude, it is aptitude, it is about the emotional intelligence. We also understood about the ethics of sociology, which is about the role of family, society in inculcating values. Then we also understood the ethics of administration, the ethics of administration. This is about the public administration, the values in the public administration. What are the values in the public administration? You can also lead to the foundational values for civil servant, the foundational values for the civil servant. So these are the broad dimensions. Then you also have other miscellaneous part. Under the miscellaneous part, like we have applied ethics, we have the contribution of moral thinkers, leaders, the contribution of moral philosophers, Okay, so these are the dimensions of the ethics. The ethics of philosophy, the ethics of psychology, the ethics of sociology, the ethics of administration, and also the miscellaneous. Now, while you are using a syllabus use karna hai, also try to have some demarcation, some special values for each of them, some special key terms for each of these sections. The philosophy, the aptitude, attitude, emotional intelligence, the role of family. So it has to be different. Certain keywords have to be different for each of them. You can write a code of conduct and code of ethics in public administration, but you cannot write about the code of conduct while you are dealing with the society. Well, the society dimensions, you cannot write about the code of conduct in the society. So try to use the syllabus as per this. Okay, try to use the syllabus as per these broad sections. So syllabus use karna hai, but then you have to be careful also what do we use where. So nakal karni hai, par akal ke saath. You have to use the brain also. Fine. Now, so the homework that you have, is learn the syllabus. Memorize the syllabus. Try to memorize the syllabus. 6 to 7 dimensions hai. Try to memorize them. Okay? Apart from that, administrative values. What are the administrative values? We have, these are the administrative values. Can somebody tell me, can somebody brief me upon human values? Human values. What are the human values that you have to follow? Understand, we all are human being, not because of the human body, but we are human being because we have certain human values. We have certain human values. What are the human values? The human values like love, care, compassion, honesty, trust, right? These are human values. These are the base of human relations. These are the base of human relations. So love, care, compassion, your integrity, honesty, trust. These are the basis of social relations. So try to make a chart of the human values too. Okay. And as we proceed in the future lectures, we will try to understand the values through the administrators, through the moral philosophers, through the leaders. The values that, see, understand, हम values कैसे पढ़ सकते हैं? We can understand, yes, love, patience, loyalty. These are also your human values, patience. Okay, now we can also understand values by some administrator, some moral philosopher, some leaders. When I say moral philosophers, administrators, do you think the values of Gandhi ji, the values that are of utmost importance by Gandhi ji, is the same that is by, let's say, Rabindranath Tagore ji? Both of them, did they have the highest pedestal to the same value? For Gandhi ji, if I say non-violence and truth was the highest pedestal value. For Rabindranath Tagore ji, it was internationalism. So we can also understand the values by different administrators, by different leaders, correct? So here, Gandhi ji had non-violence and truth, whereas Rabindranath Tagore ji believed in internationalism. I don't know how many of you know this, that Rabindranath Tagore ji was not in favor of nationalism as a value. He said that nationalism leads to narrowed thinking. He believed in universal brotherhood. He believed in internationalism. Okay, so his idea was universal brotherhood. So here we will also try to understand the values from the moral philosophers, different thinkers and leaders, right? The values upholded by Immanuel Kant is not same as those held by J.S. Mill. Immanuel Kant believed in what? He believed in a duty. He believed as means. He believed that not only the consequences, but the means should also be correct. So was Gandhi ji, right? That the means should be correct. But what about J.S. Mill? What about, he said that he believed in end. He believed in end. Okay, so we have to also understand the values as per the different philosophers, leaders, etc. क्या एग्जाम में पास होना सही है? हाँ, सही है. क्या चीटिंग करके पास होना सही है? गांधी जी would say no. J.S. Mill would say yes. As long as you are getting passed in the examination is correct. So, as per J.S. Mill, it is the end that matters. Even if you have passed the examination by cheating. Okay, so the end is important and not the means. Right? So we'll try to see, it's a very interesting subject. It's a very easy subject in case you understand how to write answers. And it does not take as much of effort also. But you have to write couple of answers for you to get into the momentum of answer writing. Okay then, bye-bye, take care.